Hello and welcome to I Hate Call Drago. My name is Levi Thomas. I hate card games. Sorry for the hiatus I've been on for the past week or two. I just started a new job and it's actually like physical labor, so been busy with that. But I actually have some energy tonight, so I thought I could put together a video. And I wanted to try something a little bit different. Instead of me playing a deck and showing actual gameplay, I wanted to go over the lore of MTG. I've actually been getting sort of into the new set and learning about like their world building stuff because writing is interesting to me. And I went back and sort of learned about a lot of the old lore as well. And so instead of having you guys all have to do that yourselves, I can just TLDR it right now and you guys can kind of understand where all of this magic lore comes from. So I guess we'll start with the first novel chronologically, which is the Thran, and we'll go from there. Right, so the story is set on the plane of Dominaria. Fun fact, the name Dominaria is based on the Latin words domini and aria, which roughly translates to S&M Megastore. Anyways, the plane is currently ruled by a bunch of nerds that call themselves the Thran, and this empire of the Thran has managed to harness the power of the lazily named Power Stones to power their cities and nerdy art projects like making steampunk golems with unnecessarily power metal designs. Like, look at this guy. Whoever made this is definitely not compensating for some sort of insecurity kappa. Anyways, the Thran Empire was feeling pretty good about themselves until Glacian, not the Pokemon, gets shanked by a young revolutionary named Gix. And he wasn't shanked by like a regular old knife. He was actually shanked by one of the Power Stones themselves because Gix is a fan of poetic justice. Or irony, I guess. See, Gix was mad at Glacian because Glacian is basically the face of Power Stones, and he's rich, and he's got a smoking hot wife. Meanwhile, Gix is an untouchable, meaning he basically has leprosy herpes. It's a common disease among poor Power Stone miners like himself. After the stabbing, Glacian contracts leprosy herpes himself, and now it's finally considered a dangerous problem. If a poor person gets leprosy herpes, no big deal, just let him rot in a cave. But one rich white guy gets leprosy herpes, and now the whole world has to come to a stop. And Glacian's wife, Rebecca, is freaking out so hard she forgot to put an A at the end of her name, and she calls the controversial Dr. Yawg, MD, to take a look at her man. Now, Dr. Yawg is controversial not in the way that Dr. Oz is controversial and full of shit, but more like how Dr. Kevorkian was controversial and actually had some really interesting ideas. Coincidentally, Dr. Yawg's name also predicted the two most unbalanced cards in Hearthstone history years in advance. That's beside the point though. Anyways, the doc gets Glacian and also Gix and a bunch of people with leprosy herpes and looks them over and decides that they all have what he calls phthisis. Petites, and concludes that it's caused by some form of radiation emanating from the Power Stones, obviously. So basically, Glacian and the leaders of the Thran have just been throwing poor people at this big mine under the city called the Mana Rig, which turned out to be the world's least supervised nuclear power plant. Now, putting aside the ethical problems with that, I feel like it's just poor business sense to leave these guys unprotected. I mean, Glacian got phthisis from his first bearskin encounter with a raw Power Stone, so he's either weak as fuck or hundreds if not thousands of workers are contracting this every week. So how do you find time to train all of these new workers coming in? Because there's no way they're getting through the manual on day one. You're letting these simple bitches run heavy machinery with no training so that the guys that are immune to phthisis are probably dying in fucking steampunk forklift accidents thanks to their stupid cunt supervisors, and there's no way that these guys are unionizing. They probably don't even know what the word means because they're getting sent to the rig the second they learn the word stop and go. These poor dolt-ass motherfuckers. Anyways, Gix is super pissed now that he knows all about this negligence and storms off back to his cave. And Yawg manages to get funding to find a cure for phthisis and actually manages to do it just in time for Gix to get all Karl Marxy and lead his proletariat buddies through the capital. But Yawg stops them by healing a bunch of folks, and everybody like it. Then Yawg's kooky past comes back to bite him in the ass when a bunch of randos come out of the woodworks to claim that Yawg has done unethical things like performing experiments on people against their will. So now Dr. Bill Yogsby is in some hot water with his new friends, But due to the Thran having a worse voting setup than the Electoral College, Yawg ends up on top. Speaking of Yawg ending up on top, old Yawgy Doggy starts goofing with Glacian's meds so that he stays gross and sick, while Yawgmoth can slide into Rebecca's DMs. So now, Rebecca's name isn't missing the A at the end because she forgot it, it's missing the A because that's Yawg's A now, if you catch my drift. Black and yellow, black and yellow. Anyways, so then this planeswalker chick named Dyfed shows up to meet Glacian, but the ever-charming Dr. Yawg convinces her to drop everything and find him a new plane where he can build his dream of a mechanical Jonestown. She agrees, she pieces out, and then Gix tries to rebel again, this time because Yawg was selling all the poor schmucks in the mana rig blanks and bammers. So Yawg crushes this rebellion hella quick by mooning everybody. And that's not a joke, that's actually what happens. Eventually, Dyfed comes back and is like, yo, Doc, I found you a plane that is straight fire. So he's like, cool, I'll name it Phyrexia. He starts moving the sickest folks over to Phyrexia and cures them for realsies this time, but now instead of them being just healthy humans, the Phyrexian plane starts turning them into funky, like, robo folks. So now, remember all those randos that were upset with Yawgmoth from the before times? So they're all back, and they've brought pretty much everybody on Dominaria with them to kill Yoghorn Leghorn. And yet again, Yawgmoth moons everybody on Dominaria and ends up winning again. So now Dyfed comes back to offer Yawg a housewarming gift for his new plane, and she's not very thrilled with the weird cyborg people that Yawg is making. So she goes to give him a piece of her mind, but instead, Yawg takes a piece of a power stone and sticks it into her mind, or rather into her head. It turns out you can kill an immortal planeswalker with like standard murder practices like lobotomy. So then Glacian also dies via Yawgmoth inserting power stones into him, and Rebecca is pretty bummed out. Then Yawg opts for the nuclear option. That's redundant, shouldn't have worded it like that. And decides to drop stone chargers on the capital, which are basically huge mechanical vapes that rip the fattest clouds you've ever seen. So now everybody in the capital is like Phyrexia or bust, and they leave for a life of Tim Burton-esque techno torture. And Rebecca is the only one left in Halcyon. I forgot to mention that Halcyon is the name of the capital. And so now there's no A at the end of her name because there's no A she's ever going to Phyrexia. That was a fucking stretch. Instead, she just chooses to embrace her vaped nation and walks outside into the nuclear fallout. And that's how the book ends. So that's the first one. Let me know if y'all want me to continue with these or not in the comments. Either way, thanks for watching. I hate card games.